part 3 of trying to get a sheriff's office to follow Florida law when it comes to flock cameras. Now, after being denied these flock camera images yet again, I said, quoting from the privacy policy of Flock itself, quote, "Flock's footage does not contain personal information that connects that image to an identifiable individual." And a recent video from January 9th put out by Hernando County Sheriff's Office about flock cameras acknowledges that very fact. They wrote back and said, "Good afternoon. We have no records responsive. The only data from Flock that is used pursuant to our policy is solely used for investigative purposes." Well, you know what? It's got nothing to do with their policy. I'm talking about Florida law here. And I wrote back and said, "To clarify your position, are you stating that the Flock license plate reader cameras used by the Sheriff's Office, which are paid for and accessible to the agency, only capture and store images of vehicles that are already subject to an active criminal investigation? In other words, are you saying that no vehicle images are captured or retained by the system? Because my understanding is that the Flock system automatically captures and stores images of all vehicles that pass the cameras, regardless of whether they are tied to a specific investigation. Now, if that's the case, those records would appear to have been created in connection with official agency operations." I went on to explain that under the Florida Public Records Act, records that are made or received in connection with the transaction of official public business are public records, regardless of whether they have been reviewed or used by a particular employee. I am not aware of any particular exemption in the Florida law that removes records from public access simply because the agency has not accessed them yet. If there is a specific statute exemption being relied upon to deny the records requested, please identify the particular provisions of the Florida statute that applies. Thank you for your time and assistance. And after that, they responded back, "We are able to provide audit logs for Flock records. Please advise a time frame for invoicing." Okay, so now they're trying to change the subject, trying to appease me, I guess. I said, "Yes, I would like the audit records, but to clarify, the audit logs appear to be a separate category of records from the Flock images that I referenced in my original request. So please consider this email as confirmation that I'm requesting the audit logs in addition and not in place of the records previously requested. I would also like an answer to my previous questions." And they wrote back and said, "Yes, we can work on getting that audit information to you, but the other stuff," and they again denied. They again posted the same exact Florida statute, which I'll actually read for you here. It says, "Following information held by an agency is confidential and exempt under Florida Public Records request." This is specifically what is exempted. Images and data containing or providing personal identifying information obtained through the use of an automated license plate recognition system, or B, any such information relating to a license plate registered to an individual may be disclosed to the individual unless the information constitutes active criminal intelligence information or active criminal investigative information. And like I said, I had already stated I did not want something tied to an active ongoing investigation, and that Flock, as well as the Sheriff's Office themselves, stated that they do not collect personally identifiable information. So that means that those images that I'm requesting are subject to public records request. So I told them that, and they replied, "Public record law does not require us to create records to satisfy public record requests, and the Flock cameras can only be utilized pursuant to policy with an investigative purpose for law enforcement use, not public searches." All right, guys, so they're saying that the county policy doesn't allow them to be used for anything except for investigative purposes. But Flock cameras are still taking billions of pictures every single month, images that have nothing to do with criminal investigations, and those are the pictures that I'm asking for. It doesn't matter what your policy says, they're still taking pictures, and therefore, according to Florida law, they're subject to public records. And now they're saying that by searching through the database for the images that I'm requesting, that would be creating a public record that didn't exist before. The images are there, and they're just saying that by searching for them, they would be creating a new public record that didn't exist before, even though it already existed. That doesn't make sense. So they're still denying my request and trying to come up with every excuse imaginable to say why they can't give me the pictures that at first they say they didn't have access to because that it was some other department. And then they were saying that they're exempt under one Florida statute. Then I challenged them on that. And then they said, well, it's actually exempt under a different Florida statute. And now they're saying that they're exempt because they don't even exist. What? So obviously I was a little frustrated at this point because they clearly didn't have a good reason to deny me my public records request. I kept going anyway. I responded, I am still trying to understand the basis for the denial. If the images and the detection data exist within the Flock system, would retrieving that data by running a search within that system be considered by the Sheriff's Office to be creating a new record, rather than retrieving an existing record. They responded, "This request contains a series of questions which will be responded to with records responsive, if applicable. Public records law does not require us to answer questions, only to provide existing records to a request, if such records exist." So in short, they again denied my records request, saying that the records basically don't exist, even though they initially said that they were first confidential. Now they're saying that by them searching the database, they would be creating records that, even though they had access to already, that didn't exist before or something. I don't get it. So I responded, whether or not a particular image has been viewed by an employee does not determine its status as a public record. Similar to how like a body camera, if all that footage hasn't been viewed by an employee within the agency yet, it still could be subject to public records. And then guess what? They said, the requested records are confidential and exempt pursuant to, and they gave me the same exact Florida statute again that I had already said doesn't mean what they're trying to make it to mean. So they are denying my claim for images that are owned by the sheriff's office and have nothing to do with personally identifiable information or with an active ongoing investigation. This is a violation of my Florida constitutional right to access these public records.